Hi, my name's Daisy, and today I'm going to be taking you through the basics of redstone and mechanisms that you can use with it in Minecraft. So redstone is this red mineral in Minecraft which conducts power almost like electricity does in real life, and this is the dust version of it, and it is mined from these redstone ores using either an iron pickaxe or something higher. So redstone can be laid on pretty much any surface, just like this, and as you can see, when I place it down, there are 4 junctions which come off of the piece, and then if I place another one next to it, you can see that it just detects which way it's going. So the other thing about redstone is that it can go up and over surfaces. As I've placed it on 1 block higher, you can see that it does that. To use redstone dust, you need to power it with something, so this could be a redstone torch, or it could be something like a block of redstone. And as you can see, when I place down a power source, the redstone goes from dark red, like this, to bright red, and that means that it's being powered. The one big rule that you need to remember with redstone is that it has a power level of 15, and this means that after 15 blocks of it, it will no longer power something. So I can show you this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So that's 15 pieces of redstone, all connected up to a power source. Now, if I add a redstone lamp on the end, you can see that the redstone lamp turns on. And that's because the power is going from the block of redstone through the redstone dust and then powering the lamp. If I get rid of the lamp and add 16, 17 pieces of redstone, you will see that the redstone lamp does not turn on, and this is because of the power level 15. Next, we're going to look at the different tools that you can use with redstone and to power redstone that aren't redstone torches or blocks. So the 3 main ones are levers, buttons, and pressure plates. So back here you can see that I've just created a little house, and I'm going to show you all the different ways that you can open the door. So as you can see, each of the items are placed directly next to the door, which is the thing that I want to move, and this is the same for anything that you want to use with it. So if we look at the lever first, when I push the lever down, the door is open, and it will stay open until I push the lever back up and the door closes again. So it's a permanent solution to moving something. On the other hand, if we look at the button, when I press the button, the door opens and then it closes on its own without me repressing the button. So this is a more timed process for opening the door. Now, if we look at this wooden pressure plate, which is different from, say, a stone pressure plate, I can just stand on it and the door will open and let me walk past, and then it will close behind me, the same way that the button just turns on and off. So I have to have something on the pressure plate in order for it to work. With a wooden pressure plate, you can see that when I push it down with anything, such as this other pressure plate, the door opens, and then when I collect it again, the door closes. So if we do that again, put some redstone down on the wooden pressure plate, and until it floats away, the door is open. If I swap this for a stone pressure plate, and then do the same, you'll see that it does not work. So that's something to remember. It still lets me walk through it, but I'm the only thing that can get through. So now we're going to move on to something a little bit more complicated, and that is redstone repeaters, which is what I have in my hand right here. So as you can see, I have the same setup as before. I have a power source, such as a torch, and then I have 15 pieces of redstone, which are powering this redstone lamp. And as we talked about, the power level of redstone is 15. So if I were to get rid of the lamp and put down 16, 17, 18, and then put the lamp down again, you can see that it's not being powered. Now, what a redstone repeater will do, say I put it anywhere in this line here, if I replace that with a redstone repeater, you'll see, look at that the lamp turns on. So what's really happening here is that when you get to the redstone repeater in the line of redstone, the power level is brought back up to 15, and the cycle continues again, 15, 14, 13, 12, and on until you get to the redstone lamp, which is being powered. One thing to note about redstone repeaters is that if I put it this way round, it does not work because it's not pointing the right direction, and if I put it this way round, it also won't work. So you need the main redstone torch on top of it, this one here, to be facing the direction that it is going, which is like this. And as you can see, it works again just fine. The other thing that repeaters can be used for is changing or opposing whatever a power source is doing. So as you can see here, I've got the redstone torch powering some redstone, which is connected to a lamp, and that's all turned on. On the other side of this block, I have a redstone repeater next to a lever, and as you can see, that's not turned on, so it's not lit up. But when I turn the lever, the redstone repeater is turned on and the lamp is turned off. And that is because the torch gets turned off when the repeater is turned on, so it's doing the opposite. So again, when I turn the repeater off, the torch turns on, and so does the lamp. This is a little extra thing which you can do with redstone repeaters, and it's called a redstone clock. So I have two repeaters facing the opposite direction to each other, connected up with some redstone, and a piston on either end just to show you the real effect of it. When I click on the repeater, you'll see that the second redstone torch moves along 4, and this is called tick delay. So that's a tick delay of 1, 2, 3, and then back round 4. So I'm going to start off with having them on tick delay 1, and then to turn on the redstone clock, you simply flick the lever very fast on and off once, and you can see that it is turned on, and the pistons are going up and down, and this is just going in like a constant loop. So back and forth. Now, if I turn it off by breaking the redstone and put that back on, if I change the tick delay to the third row and then do it again, you'll see the effect that tick delay has. So I've turned it back on, and now you can see that the pistons are moving much slower. So that is the effect that tick delay will have on the redstone clock. And that could work for lots of different things. So now we're just going to have a look at comparators, which are quite complicated, even though they do look very similar to repeaters. So it's this little thing here, and you can see that there are 3 little redstone torches on it, and there's an arrow which shows which way it is facing. So at the minute you can see it's facing out that way. So what comparators do is they compare the position of an item in an item frame. In this instance, they compare things in general, but in this instance we're going to compare the position of this arrow and what direction it's pointing in this item frame, and it will output the redstone strength depending on which way it is pointing. So in general, they input a redstone level and they output a result because of that, starting from the highest, which is 15, because that is the power level of redstone. So if I click on this arrow, you can see each time it moves around a bit, one more redstone lamp is lighting up. And now we're at full, and then it goes back to 1. The basic principle of the 2 modes of a comparator are normal mode and subtract mode. So at the minute, this one is in normal mode because it's lit up and turned on. So when it's like this, you can see here that I've got a lever powering some redstone dust from the back of the comparator, and it's going through to the end. So as I said before, you start from power level 15 and you work your way down instead of up because you're going further away from the power source. So I'm inputting into the comparator in normal mode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's 15, 14, 13, 12, 11. So I'm inputting 11 into the comparator, and what's coming out the other side is 11. So 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0. So in normal mode, if you're just inputting something, the same is going to come out the other side. Now, if we add a side input as well, so you can have things coming in from the back and the side, we'll start by adding 10. So if I add 10 onto it, you can see I've powered it on. You will still get an output of 11 because 10 is less than 11, so it ignores it and just uses the input of 11 from the back. Now if I turn 10 off, if I add 14 into it, you can see that the comparator has turned off. If I do that again for you, and if I turn 14 on, you can see that it just lights up this path, and the comparator is turned off. And that's because 14 is bigger than 11, so it blocks the comparator off completely, and it just ignores whatever is going on. So that's when it's in normal mode. The other mode it can be in is subtract mode, which is like this. So what happens in subtract mode is easier to understand really than normal mode. So here, once again, I'm inputting 11, and from the side, I'm inputting 9, as you can see here. So I've input 9 and I've input 11 into the comparator, and what's coming out is 2. And that's because in subtract mode, as you'd think, all that happens is that the two inputs are subtracted from each other. So 11 minus 9 are 2, so that's the output. This is a little bonus thing that you can do with comparators. So you can see here that I have a button, which is a power source, and then I have a lamp connected to it as normal, and then on this side I have another lamp connected to it, which is also connected to 2 rows of comparators. And as you can see, there's just one row facing one way, and then the other row facing the other way. So, you know what's going to happen if I press the button to this lamp. All that's going to happen is it'll turn on for a bit and then turn off when the button is released again. And when I press it, you'll also see what happens to this side. So if I press the button, that one turns on and turns off, but this one is still on, and you can see that here. So what this is called is a pulse extender. And what that means is that the pulse that is being given out by the button is going on for longer than usual as it's going through the comparators, meaning this lamp is turned on for longer. And if you were to add more comparators, you could go all the way out here, then the pulse would be extended even more. So it's very dependent on how many comparators you want to add. But that's quite a fun little trick too, and you could use it for doors and things like that. Now we're going to have a look at observers, which are these little guys here. And they look like they have little faces, which is a good way to remember what they're doing. They're observing things, they're looking at things. And how they work is they detect a change in the block right in front of their faces, and they output a pulse whenever there is a change. So if you look at this here, so I've got one here facing exactly the same way as this guy, and in front of him I have a redstone lamp. So when I turn the redstone lamp on, you can see that this lamp over here lights up. So what that's doing is I've connected the observer to some redstone so that when it does output a pulse, it will power that lamp. So the lamp in front of it turns on, which means that he's seen a change, and that lamp flashes on and off because it only outputs one single pulse. When I turn the lamp off again, something changes and the lamp comes on again. And that's basically it. So these can be really helpful for things like an automatic sugarcane farm, which is what you can see here. So what you will see as the sugarcane grows, when it grows to the block which is in front of the observer, a pulse is emitted to the piston, and then the piston breaks the sugarcane ready for you to collect. I'll show you the back of this. So all I've got here is the observer and then a piston below it, and then just one piece of redstone here, and you'll see in a minute that it will receive a pulse, and that's how the piston pushes the sugarcane. There you go. So now we're going to take a quick look at the difference between dispensers and droppers. So I've connected them both up to one button and redstone repeaters to make sure that they get full power that they need. And inside both of them at the minute I have some sugarcane, just like that. So when I press the button, you'll see what happens to both of them. They both just chuck out the pieces of sugarcane as if they were just dropping them as you can do, and then just pick up the item that's dropped. Now, if I replace the sugarcane with something like an egg, you'll see that something different happens. So if I just reset the redstone here by just breaking it and putting it back down, it's the easiest way to do it, you'll see that when I press the button again, the dispenser and dropper will do different things. There you go. So when you put a throwable item in a dispenser, like an egg or a potion or a fire charge or anything that you can throw in Minecraft and it'll create something or something will happen, when you press the button, the dispenser will fire it out in the same way that I can throw an egg, just like that. You see, I can throw eggs, but I can't throw a piece of redstone lamp. I can only drop it. The dropper will always just drop the item, as is suggested in the name, whereas the dispenser, when it's filled with throwable items, will throw them, but if it's a non-throwable item, it will just drop it, the same as a dropper. So now that we've pretty much gone through the basics, I'm just going to show you a couple of more applicable projects that you can try yourself. So if you remember the sugarcane farm that we looked at a minute ago, we're just going to build on that to make it even more efficient. So this is a hopper in an item frame, as you can see. And all I've done here is I've rebuilt exactly the same sugar farm as before, but instead of just collecting it ourselves when it's broken, here I've added a stream of water going this way, and then at the end of that I've added a hopper. And as you can see, when the sugarcane breaks, when it is finished growing, it will go through the water and it will drop down into the hopper. And when we look in the hopper, we can see that it's collecting all of the sugarcane so that we don't have to. And next to that, I've added a chest which we can then store the sugarcane in. So that's a very easy way to have a completely automatic sugarcane farm, and then whenever you need supplies you can just go and grab them out of the chest. The last thing that I'd like to show you, which I think is a really good little game that everyone should have a go at making, is this target practice, which is really simple. All you need to use is a target block, which is this, a comparator, a line of redstone, and some redstone lamps again. So what happens, and I'll give you a quick demonstration of how bad I am at firing arrows, is you aim, you take fire, and as you can see, oh, I got a full score there. So what happens is you chuck your arrow at the target block, and dependent on how close to the bullseye you get, that will output a pulse signal to the comparator, which will then light up the redstone lamps, just as we did before with the item frame, but this time we're just using a target block. So if I fire it really badly, so right up in this corner, if I can get to it, I only get a score of about 4. So obviously the more lamps you light up, the bigger the pulse output, which means that you're closer to the centre. So that's a really fun little game to try. So that's pretty much it for this Minecraft video about redstone. I hope you enjoyed it. Give the builds a try for yourself and see how you get on. And thank you for watching.